The key experience I've made both in Ethiopia and here in Uganda, if there is no ownership from the side of the host country, it is never going to work. And by ownership, I mean not just saying, oh yes, we want this. It means that they have to put something on the table, that they will also have to invent. And only if that happens, and then they are willing to roll up their sleeves and fix a machine on a weekend or when it's not convenient late at night, then a project will have a chance of succeeding.
Welcome to Body and Soil in Uganda. Here you'll find practical education from soil to plate. Let's dive in.
Thank you so much for having me today in your home, in this beautiful place. I'm so happy that I met you.
Oh, it's a pleasure to welcome you here. It's been a while. I think you dropped by sometime last year briefly, but I still very vividly remember my visit to Mityana. And our mutual friend Tom Pauser told me that a lot has happened since then.
That's true, very much, very much. And now I want to go back to how much has actually happened, because when we met in 2024 in December, there was a very funny coincidence, actually. A friend of mine, a week before we met, was saying he had met you and you were on this tour of Karamoja.
The bike tour.
Yes.
Yep.
And he was saying, Maria, you have to meet the German ambassador. He's so amazing. He's so nice. And he was like, I'm going to connect you. And I said, but I have this theory about connecting and meeting people, is that I feel like when I'm supposed to meet somebody, I will. And then I said to him exactly that. I said, if I'm supposed to meet the ambassador, I will meet him. And then 1 week later, we were at the German African Business Forum in Nairobi.
Yep.
And then you were standing right in front of my stand, where I had I was working with absolutely no one except for kind of the organic college, but I was pretty much alone. And then I went up to you and then we started talking. I don't even remember what we were talking about, but I thought...
Oh, I'm sure I started asking you questions about your interesting project. I wanted to know all about it.
That could be.
And you are very eloquent, and I mean, the way you always do, you explain it with a lot of passion, and you're very, how should I say, with a lot of examples, and you make it very visual, and you whet people's appetite to know even more.
That's nice. Thank you. That's really nice to hear. Yeah, but that was just so funny, because then I realized, yeah, I had to think back on that situation, because I was like, wow, yeah, we were supposed to meet. And now we're sitting here. So yeah, again, thank you that I can be here. It's really nice.
Most welcome.
And I'm going to start
Yeah.
with a question for you. A question about food. Is there a memory that you have being here in Uganda, also in Ethiopia? I don't know if you've been to other places.
No,
but
for living only those 2 years.
Was there a specific memory that's remained with you, a very authentic memory surrounding food?
It's hard to pinpoint one single event, but I remember that I really enjoyed food in Ethiopia, a dish called tegabino shiro, which is a thick kind of shiro. Shiro is the sauce that they eat with their bread. But this was really yummy. It was in Gondar, no, in Bayardar at Lake Tana, in a hotel restaurant. And then I also really came to appreciate what the Ethiopians call beyainet, which is on the bread, different piles of food, mainly vegetarian. I love the variety. I love the different flavors. And then when I came to Uganda, what reminded me of that were also the vegetables, the kale, but also they call it buga.
What's buga?
It's kind of spinach, but it's dark red.
Oh, you mean amaranthus? Is it that
Maybe that's a scientific name for it, but
amaranthus.
Really tasty, really yummy, and I'm sure also extremely healthy. We're fortunate to have a very good Ugandan chef, and he, for instance, today lunchtime he did a salad, avocado, mango, and a pomegranate with a vinaigrette. It's difficult to top. As a starter, this is I would say my favorite starter, all-time favorite. But the Ugandan beef is extremely good. And then, of course, I mean, everybody raves about the avocados, the pineapples, the mangoes, and also the small bananas. They have this not only sweet but also citrus note, which makes it much more interesting. And about 2 years ago, I ate a banana in Germany, and I said, I don't need this. This is bland. This is not interesting. So no, it's just the produce that the soil produces, brings forth, that is so much better on a such a different quality level than you will experience in Europe.
Yeah.
And that's one of many things I will miss when I leave Uganda.
But like when you were talking about Ethiopia, had you ever experienced teff before? Like
No.
before did you even know about
Well,
teff?
maybe I should, because when I was still in high school in the US, friends took me to an Ethiopian restaurant. I'm sure we had teff there, but that was back in '78, so it's sort of faded out of my memory. But I remember coming to Ethiopia and then wondering, what is this roll? It looks like terry cloth. Is it for my hands, or is it actually something to eat?
I mean, for the people that don't know, teff is like it's an indigenous grain to Africa, to Ethiopia, and it's highly, highly, highly nutritious, and it's very hard to grow and also hard to harvest.
And you have pre-harvest losses when it rains, whether there's a storm. No, but the injera, once you have it on your plate, either you like it or you don't, and I really like it.
Yeah, something you get used to. It's really something like that soggy kind of.
If it's an acquired taste.
But generally, you can get used to it. I remember that my first injera was not very enjoyable. I felt, I don't know.
Too sour.
Yeah, too sour, exactly. But just on an interesting note, injera is actually, they now make it a lot of times with wheat. Yeah, they make it with wheat to stretch because they don't have enough teff. And I'm not 100% sure. Like, I think even in Europe, I can imagine they make it with wheat, which is not as nutritious as the teff. But anyways, I have one more question to your authentic food situation, because I remember also on the tour of Karamoja, you were drinking something
local brew.
Yeah.
Yes.
How was that? What was it? What was it made out of?
Sorghum, I believe. And we were able to see how it is produced. And then the tour guide, the organizers, Theo, took us to his favorite pub in Cotillo. And we sat around in a circle, and they had this huge calabash, probably containing 2.5 or 3 liters. And most of the riders nipped at it very cautiously. And I thought, oh, this is quite refreshing. I'm thirsty. Why wait for an hour until we get to normal beer? Why not indulge right here and now? And then I started drinking and drinking and drinking, and people said, hey, you're not going to finish it, are you? But it was a good experience, and my stomach took it very well. I didn't feel any negative effects at all, and I can imagine it also has a lot of vitamins and minerals.
Yeah, it does. I always say, like, there was, I think, also a study where they were looking at banana beer, and it's the same with millet beer and sorghum beer. It's all like at a certain stage, it's highly nutritious also, who was done in a way that's hygienic, which is often the problem.
Yeah.
But generally, these drinks are actually very, very nutritious if they're not like haven't reached that too alcoholic stage.
I imagine I had at least half a liter, and I didn't feel much of an effect.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I drink beer regularly, so
Yeah, as a German.
not all Germans do, but I like my beer, and that's all. I mean, Uganda produces very decent beer, so it's one of the reasons I feel very comfortable living here.
Oh, nice. So, Matthias, I want to ask you, you are a very approachable, a very down-to-earth person. That's how you come across to me. How did you end up in this world of diplomacy and do you like to?
I would answer your question by asking you, what is your concept of diplomacy? It's not.
I don't have any. That's my problem. Absolutely not. You're the only ambassador I really know.
It's not academia. It's not writing papers. Yes, I do write reports and analyze this situation here in Uganda and calibrate what has happened, what might happen in the future, how should we react. But that is, I'd say, less than 20% of my job. You're an office manager. You're a team leader. You have politics, economics, especially economic cooperation, cultural affairs, press affairs, social media, and of course the huge area of consular visa issues. And fortunately, I don't have to deal with all these, but I'm ultimately responsible. So I have to stay in touch with all the team leaders and see, are things running smoothly? Is there anything where I can help when things are not running smoothly? And where could we start a new initiative? Where could we take organize an event. What do you think? Does this make sense? Does that make sense? And you're organizing quite a lot. So it's when the Foreign Office recruits people, they will not take people who are only wanting to write papers. They'll say, stay at university. We need basically someone who will not panic when the going gets tough. If there's unrest in a country, or if the petrol supply draws to a close, you have to be able to evacuate people if necessary. You have to be in communication with the locals, of course, but also with your expat community. And it's what I like about the job is that it's so varied, and especially every 3 years, 3 or 4 years, you get sent to a different posting or recalled to headquarters, and you do something which you haven't done before. What I didn't want to do was specialize. I have a background as a lawyer, but if you want to be successful as a lawyer, you have to specialize. And I couldn't imagine doing mergers and acquisitions for 30 years. I've been in the service now for 36 years, and I've never been bored. So it's, but to the second part of your question, how did I come to diplomacy? It's a family affair. My parents met in the Foreign Service. My mom was then asked to leave because at that time, we're talking about 1956, they said, we're not taking couples, one or the other. And then my eldest brother and my other brother, they also went into the Foreign Service. For a long time, I felt this is not what I want to do, but it then dawned on me it might be an option, and I haven't regretted it.
Yes. Maybe also because of all those changes that are always happening. It's like consistent. I think one of the most exciting things about life, or have the job that you're doing, is if you have something that's not always monotonous, always not the same. You feel like, yeah, you're growing or learning. I think.
Yeah, you're expanding your horizon, you're learning about this and that. You continuously question, is what I've thought so far was true actually true? Or is it, don't I have to adapt to a different context and reevaluate?
So as you say that, was there a moment in Ethiopia or in Uganda where it changed the way you see things? Like from how long have you been working altogether in Africa?
Close to 10 years now.
Okay, so in those 10 years, was there a moment where, or probably a few?
A few. My bottom line comparing Europe to Africa is Europeans are very result oriented, which has its advantages. Things usually get done. Africans are much more relationship oriented. And in the long term, that's more important. Whether I get a job done today or next week is not ultimately that important. But if I interact with people in a good way, that will build the relationship and will offer additional opportunities that I don't have if I don't have this relationship. And I mean, what ultimately counts in life when you look back is relationships. It's not what position you've had for a limited number of time, or if you've made some money. And you know, in German we have this saying: the last shirt, the one you wear when you're in your coffin, it doesn't have pockets, so you can't take anything with you. And it's so what do you want to invest in? and being open to meeting new people, to understanding how they think, why they do things the way they do things, is much more enriching than saying, okay, I've written another report on the economic situation, which maybe a few people will read or not. And it's not going to change the course of the universe in any
Yeah.
case.
If you compare it to working in Germany, was it a little bit more fun to work here?
Definitely.
Okay.
Definitely. No, I mean, especially Ugandans. I'm not saying this to flatter. Ugandans are so open and accessible and welcoming. If I walk down the street here in Kampala and start a conversation with a stranger, and 4 out of 5 times it will be very pleasant. I don't think I can say that for Berlin. Seriously.
Definitely not.
So it's just Uganda is good to a good place to live in, a good place to meet people, and I mean, don't get me started on Ugandan nature. It's I can rave on for half an hour on the experience I've had here.
So it would probably be hard now to go back to Germany and to go into that German rigid way of living.
It would.
Mm.
I mean, I'm quite happy that I'm retiring this summer and I don't have to go back into the machinery of the German administration, which has very many good sides to it, but which is very rigid and well, it leaves you very little flexibility as an individual.
Yeah, totally. And also not as happy, I would say. Um, Now we're going to go into a bit of a different topic. I mean, you've seen in these last 10 years, you've seen a lot, I'm sure, and also worked with a lot of people. So we see there's a lot of investments happening, of course, in Africa and development and stuff. Many, and still we have lots of challenges here, right? It just continues. And I ask myself often, what is why, what are we not doing? And that's what I'm going to ask you too. What could we to be addressed to be more sufficient? How could we do this better? Maybe is there a way?
I don't think the way is that the Bazungu give advice. I think the only way that will be helpful is to sit down together and discuss what the challenges are. The German government is doing this in a good way. Every 2 years, we sit down with the Ministry of Finance and Economic Development and say, what are the focus areas? What do you think we should focus on? And they may make a suggestion that we aren't happy with. We may make a suggestion that they aren't happy with. So we have to find areas where both feel this is important and we want to pursue this. The essential part is, from my point of view, my answer so far has remained fairly abstract, and I can't tell you this is the recipe on how we move forward in a better way. It's as many times has been said in the African Union and also by President Museveni, African solutions for African problems. We do not know the society well enough to know what works and what doesn't. The solutions must come from the Ugandans. We can only offer our opinion and say, we're doubtful whether this or that will work. Would you consider this or that approach? And see if that gets some traction. When we then agree on certain areas, next step is to see which projects do we want to implement. And for me, the key experience I've made both in Ethiopia and here in Uganda, if there is no ownership from the side of the host country, it is never going to work. And by ownership, I mean not just saying, oh, yes, we want this. It means that they have to put something on the table, that they will also have to invest part of their money, their time, their effort, that they feel this is also my project and not a project by the German government. And only if that happens, and then they are willing to roll up their sleeves and fix a machine on a weekend or when it's not convenient late at night, then a project will have a chance of succeeding. But not if you just pour money into a bag and say, well, go ahead, buy some machinery and be happy with it.
I couldn't agree more. Me also, I see, oh, I need to help here, I need to help there. And I've only now, for example, we want to help students who can't pay for their tuition fees. And we were thinking, but how can we do this? People want to help. They're coming from outside saying we want to give a certain amount of money a month or whatever to help these students. And we realized it will not work if we don't say a part of it they have to pay for themselves. So it will have zero worth. They will like not show up maybe or just leave. But if we say this 10%, this 15% needs to be saved and put aside so that you really cherish this, then I think also
If it's for free, it seems to be not valuable to many people. It's the way the human mind works.
yeah.
If you have to contribute yourself to make it yours.
Yeah, let me just go back a step. How did you experience the gap between institutional approaches and what's happening on the ground?
Can you be more specific?
Let me give you an example. For example, here in at the Lucid College, we have a lot of times people coming from outside saying these trainings, or used to becoming a lot and saying these trainings need to be done for farmers because this is what they need. But it wasn't really what they needed. It was just from someone outside
Yep.
deciding for them what they need. So it didn't have the effect that it should have at the end of the day. Did you ever experience that as well? And
Not specifically. My perception is that communication anywhere in the world is a challenge. Even in a good marriage, it can be a challenge, but especially if it's cross-cultural and also within one and the same culture, and you have different ways, different concepts of communicating or choosing not to communicate. So my perception is that quite often Ugandan institutions who are working in the same field are not really talking with each other, don't really know what the other institution is doing. So you sometimes have two institutions approaching the same subject matter from different angles, and if they were to pool their resources, they could be more efficient. Or one institution is doing something that is actually opposed to what the other is, and they don't know about each other for a while until they have a collision. I think improving communication also between line ministries here would be most helpful. We've had many experiences where we talk, for instance, to the MOFPET, the Ministry of Finance and Economic Development, and then we find out that another ministry has no clue about this project, and we ask MOFPET, but why aren't you informing them? I mean, it's not the job of the German embassy to inform, I don't know, 4 or 5 government institutions about this project. We need a single entry point. We are not your coordinators. And we usually don't get a good answer to that. It's just, well, we didn't think of it. We didn't know they were interested, and so on. I think the culture of sharing information here can be improved.
yeah, I've experienced that as well. If you hadn't been in your role as an ambassador, do you think you would have started something yourself because you saw a specific need somewhere?
Or both. When I was a tourist in Zimbabwe 25 years ago, but also in Ethiopia and here, I have seen what a difference these so-called saving clubs make. That people just lack cash, and you have to be very selective about how much you give for which purpose to which people, but that a very modest sum of money can, within less than half a year, be a game changer. You start a business where it's usually women who deal with this money very responsibly. Start something, to start trading, for instance, or start growing something, and it's because they received, I don't know, $150 that they can start with this, and they are very serious about paying it back. And half a year later, somebody else can get the same amount of money and go down that same pathway and fend for the family or the extended family and become a contributing member of society in an economic way. And what I find so amazing is that so little can make so much of a difference. But of course, you need personal responsibility. If you have a huge group of people, thousands of people who don't know each other, this will fail. It is only if you have a group of, I don't know, 20, 30 people, everybody knows the other person, saying, Maria, you received $150. You promised to pay it back by the end of October. We expect you to do that because Emma is waiting also for a loan like that. And then you will feel a very strong incentive / social pressure to get your act together and actually use that money in a good way and not go out and go shopping with it.
So have you actually seen that these models are working?
Yeah.
Wow.
Both in Ethiopia, in Zimbabwe, and here. Visited. I mean, the Dutch, other embassies are quite active in that field, working together with commercial banks. I don't understand the mechanisms precisely, but also the commercial banks here say it makes sense for us. We're willing to provide that money because the chances of getting it back are very high, and we feel that we're making some sort of social contribution in the process.
Amazing. What do you think about this? I would call it a trend of women empowerment that's very strong at the moment. Everybody's talking about women empowerment when there's what is happening with the men. That's always my question.
Yeah, no, I mean, supporting the girl child is important, but you shouldn't forget the boy child. I think it only works if you cooperate. If you say women deserve support, men don't, that's a generalization. Yes, if you go out on the streets, look into some of the drinking places, it's mainly men. And this money might be put to much better use if they didn't spend it on drink. But you will also find women who are not really good at dealing with money. So generalization, I think, is not helpful. But in my experience in these saving clubs, the members were 90%, if not more, women, because they are not interested in hanging out and drinking, and because they feel responsible for the children they have, and they want to feed them, and they, if possible, in a good way. They want them to get an education. So I think in the trend that women are supported more is good because the chances of this making a difference are much higher. But in general, I wouldn't generalize. It's you also find a huge amount of young men who are willing to work really hard and make a difference, and they deserve equal support.
Yeah, that's exactly how I see it. I have so many amazing men in our team.
Yeah.
And I think if I was like saying only women, I have to say,
No.
and they're really pulling.
Yep.
And I think anybody that shows that they can pull and are like doing their part deserves investing in.
Yep.
That's my personal opinion. What has your role here working in Africa and Uganda and I mean we know communication, but what else? Is there something it's taught you specifically this time working here? What has it taught you about yourself?
Well, I mean, when I came here in July 2025, it was my first time as head of mission. And if you are the head of mission, you have to take a lot more decisions than you do if you are deputy, like I was in Addis Ababa. So um, at first, you're cautious about saying yes or no. And within a few months, you get some feel for it. And I would say 4 out of 5 invitations I receive, I decline. My question is there any rapport with Germany? Is there a link to an area where we are particularly active with? Or do they just want an ambassador at this event as decoration? And so saying no, being more patient, saying, okay, either it's going to happen or it's not going to happen or it's going to happen later. Well, just, in Germany, you would try to force a decision saying, I need to know by Friday afternoon. And in Africa, that usually doesn't work. And you'll say, if I don't get an answer from you, maybe it won't be possible anymore, but it's your decision, and I'm just making an offer.
Yeah, I know it can be very frustrating. I've experienced that as well. Like, you want it, like, why isn't this happening? Or I've gotten used to like almost always when I say when we agree on a time for a meeting, be sure it's going to be 1 hour later. It's almost kind of nice sometimes not. Sometimes
Yeah.
a bit annoying, but if you take it with a deep breath and say, okay, in that hour, I already like have my hour planned
Yeah.
that I'm going to do in that time.
Yeah. Take some reading material and
Yeah.
just adapt to the facts on the ground. It's not for us as Westerners to tell the Ugandans how to run their lives. I mean, they realize, I mean, God distributed intelligence very evenly across the globe. They're not stupid. They know very well that this is a lack of efficiency, that this is losing time, means losing money, but it's the way they do things, then it's the way they do things. We're not going to re-educate them. And it's not only don't we have the right to do it, but I don't think it would be good. Because there are so many interconnected mechanisms which we don't really understand. Just we are guests here. We observe. We offer opinions. We offer opportunities, but we're not forcing anything down anybody's throat.
I'll remember that the next time that I feel frustrated waiting. Take a deep breath. Remember Matthias's words. Has there been a humbling experience for you in the time here?
I don't know if you took a look at my WhatsApp picture. It's an African lady on a bicycle, and she has one child on her back. I think she has one child in front. She has firewood on the baggage rack, and she has a pot on her head. I just admire this sort of commitment, this sort of inventiveness. She needs to get from A to B with these materials, and she somehow manages by determination, by discipline, by planning, and she manages to feed her family. Often she's a single mother, and and with a smile on her lips. If you see her on the bike and you give her a friendly nod, she will give you a smile. And if you compare that to people in Germany who have a small apartment, who have a car, who have a fixed job, and how much they grumble and compare, that is humbling. Where you see, look, you don't know what a comfortable life you're living, and you are complaining. Why don't you sort of look at how many people in other parts of the world are living and making the best of it? I think in that way, we Europeans have a lot to learn from Africans.
That's for sure. I remember when I was in Rwanda, it was one of my first experiences where you said that story, and there was this little tiny slippery bridge to cross. I had shoes on and I went over that bridge, slipping, sliding. I think, yeah, I even had somebody help me. And then I watched a woman also carrying a child, carrying stuff on her head, crossing that slippery bridge. And I was just like, oof. I had just gone through it. I know exactly what she's feeling. And she's doing it on alone. And this is her daily life.
Yeah.
And that was really like for me, I had not been to Africa. That it was really new, everything to me. Those are the times when it sticks in the beginning. So you get used to it kind of because you see it a lot. But I was thinking, this is really crazy. And I had the same thing when I go back to Germany. Sometimes like it's hard for me to connect with people because then they start telling me about this and that. And I'm like,
you have this see this as a problem? Come on.
Exactly. And yeah, well, my school kid and this and the party and you're just like, you don't want to say that it's not important, but I cannot be part of the conversation. It's really hard because you don't want to point that they don't understand it. Or I get weird messages sometimes from people asking me crazy questions where I'm like, sorry, I'm in a really different film right now. I cannot answer that. So yeah, it's really, yeah, I would, anybody who's not had a situation where you see what life can really be.
Yeah.
I don't know.
The quote, I don't know who it's from, under that picture that I've put on WhatsApp is, if wealth were the inevitable result of hard work, every woman in Africa would be a millionaire.
That's true. Yes. So also that, yeah, people, where you say that, a lot of people say the Africans don't work hard.
That's bullshit.
It's
I'm
so,
sorry.
yeah.
It's when I visited my brother in Mali 25, 30 years ago, the heat, the humidity, of course you cannot move at the same pace that you move in a pleasant climate. But moving at all and digging trenches and herding cattle. Whoa, you try that just for 24 hours and then we'll talk.
Exactly. It's so true. It's so true. So every time I hear that, I'm like, I don't want to hear again that people in Africa are lazy.
No, it's a lie. It's a very convenient lie.
It's just horrible. As you move into this next phase of your life, what feels now really important to you?
Having time for my family, getting things organized without stress, taking the time it needs to organize things. I mean, it's a big transition. It's a move from Africa to Germany, to Berlin, and it's a transition from active working life to retirement. I don't have specific plans yet, but fortunately, I'm still healthy, and I'm planning to be able to contribute in some way to society, and I have no idea in what way that might be, but I'm confident that God will show me a way. Whether it's working with refugees, which we have very many of in Germany, especially in Berlin, or helping school children with their homework, or becoming active in, I don't know, regional, local town affairs, or the church. I'm open to ideas, but my gut feeling is I don't need a plan figured out before I leave here. Things will fall into place. If there's nothing that has happened until Christmas, I'll have to rethink that position. But I'm fairly confident that there'll be one or two options that will pop up.
And I think that's the best approach. I think we Germans, we love to have it all sorted. It's something that I have to deal with a lot of times. People say, you have to have this plan, you have to know what you're going to do. Of course, you have to have kind of a direction, right? Not just running around and doing whatever, but just letting like life kind of happen and the steps kind of coming to you, I think is the best thing you can do. Maybe it's also, I know for sure it's also something that Africa has taught me too, a bit like you have to just let it happen. You can't have the
Yeah. Keep your eyes open, look for opportunities, but don't think that you have the answers, that you have the best plan mapped out. And I mean, if I look back at my life or my wife's life, there were lots of turns that we took that we were not able to see beforehand. And some of it was not pleasant, but looking back, it turned out well. So, yeah, I remain cautiously optimistic that something will turn up. And of course, I'll keep the connection to Africa after having been here for 10 wonderful years. And I'm sure we'll be back.
Yeah, I hope that one of your turns takes you back here, is what I wanted to say, Matthias, because we'd love to have you back in Uganda. We'd love to have you back at Body and Soil. Maybe you'll make it there before you leave. But yeah, I just want to thank you again. It's been really nice talking to you. And yeah, thank you for being you.
Thank you for your commitment. I really feel that you as a person with a vision, with a passion for this project are inspiring, making a difference on the ground and also motivating people, including me, to do something that is worthwhile and that will make a difference.
Oh, thank you so much, Matthias. Thank you.
Thank you.